So if you're not loading different images like that for different screen resolutions, then you're definitely loading your images inside of your web applications the wrong way. So in this video, we're going to see how you can implement responsive images inside of your React application or web application to load different image resolution here for different screen sizes. For example, here you have like 32 pixels for a small screen like a mobile screen, and you want to load like a very large, big high quality image for bigger screens in here like desktops. And this will definitely save you a lot of network bandwidth, will make your users happy when they're using like mobiles and stuff that can websites, make it load super fast. And yes, it's going to save you a lot of money. So let's go ahead and see how you can implement this one. So this optimization feature was mentioned in quite a lot of places across like different stuff. For example, like the web.dev or Google web development standards in here for how you basically should optimize your images and load your images inside of like a web application, or go into like, MDN for the Mozilla documentation or Mozilla web docs on why you should use responsive images versus not using them, and how it can hugely impact your website performance and the network performance and your visitors kind of like look and feel towards your website. So many factors actually plays a major role on like how images would work. And to be honest, images actually make a huge percentage of how we use it today, because like they are everywhere. There's like literally no website without like a single image or more. So like whether you like it or not, you have to deal with images, you have to optimize the images, and you have to load them the right way. So to better understand the motivation behind this feature and why this feature is important, or why you do responsive images, why just not implement it or load images as we usually do, and why we should do it this way. Well, let's take for example this example from the Mozilla documentation in here, which is a pretty nice example. It's very straightforward. So let's say in here you got a website. The first example here is like not using responsive images, which is like, the standard way we load images, like without using that srcSet or the sizes feature, nothing like that. So here, let's imagine I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page and check out the network in here. So the network, what it says like, oh, there's actually some images being loaded, and it's clear in here the loaded images. For example, let's say this guy with his daughter or something, you have this image in here, it has like 114 kilobytes. It's 800 by 464, right? And as clear in here, the image already has like an 800 width. So that's actually the size of the image. But let's imagine now we are actually seeing this image inside of a desktop. But let's say you've got an user who's actually accessing your website from a mobile device. So let's say I'm going to activate this responsiveness feature, and I'm just going to, put that one right away here. And let's say I'm just going to, I'm on a mobile and I'm just viewing the website like this. And if I look into it closely, I can barely see the guy holding his daughter. I can see them, but I can't see the details. So why we should bother by loading this very high quality image, very high resolution or high res image with like 800 pixels by 464, while like it's in mobile device, and of course the mobile device doesn't need that kind of information. So we are technically wasting a lot of resources, a lot of bandwidth in here just by loading this image on a mobile device. So instead, what we should do responsive images. Now let's go ahead and look into the responsive images example. So this example in here implements the responsive images. So I'm going to go ahead, reload the website. If you look into those, basically when you reload, when you are on desktop, it's just going to load the image as, the standard image, because on a desktop, you can see a lot of pixels and stuff like that. That's good. But let's go ahead and activate the responsiveness. I'm just going to go ahead and make this look like, just a small one. As clear as in here, just immediately by looking into that, as clearly see here, there's another image version of that one that has been loaded, which is cropped, and it has a lot less kind of size. It has a lot less resolution compared to the first image that was loaded on a desktop. Now for mobile, we're loading a completely different image, and that's what responsive images are. So you can basically load on demand different resolution images or type of images depending on the screen size. And of course, you can customize this however you want, because this one has a very, specific ones, but you can customize and load as many like images as you want for different screen sizes. You basically want to use media queries inside of your HTML for images. So let's see how you can implement that. So first, I have the same example in here I implemented in React. So the basic example in here, we have two images in here, just like a gallery or something, and we're loading those images. Now, if you look into the network tab, we have Rollins and the Fabio image. Don't care about, the other one is just Vite and Dunkel, stuff like that related to an extension. But for this one in here particularly, we're loading like 395 kilobytes, and this one is 1024 width resolution. Yes, that's pretty good because that's what we were loading in desktop. But if we want to actually go ahead and see the mobile version, and if I just go ahead and, make that one here, as clear as you have two more that were just loaded recently. Rollins 330 and Fabio 330 in here. So here the resolution was changed, file size got a lot less, and here we saved a lot on performance. And of course, if I just refresh that, it will think, oh, I'm in a mobile device or something, and it's gonna load the appropriate image size. So here we're not wasting any bandwidth or performance. So how is this one implemented in React? Obviously, this is more of like an HTML feature. So this is like an HTML kind of standard that builds inside of the browsers. And basically, if you look at the Can I Use website in here to see the support for different browsers for like this feature, which is the srcSet, you see in this one actually has been, implemented in all major browsers basically like a very, very long time. So you are in the safe bet in here regarding the support stuff. All right, so going back to how you can implement that. So technically, how this one is being implemented is actually inside of the image tag. Now, image tag, how we usually load stuff like without the responsiveness, we just do image and we just specify the src of the image we want to render, and that is it. And the image is going to do the rest of the job. So it's going to refresh that and like fetch it from, the browser. It's going to render it and do all the kind of stuff in here. But this feature actually depends on two more properties, the srcSet and the sizes. And alongside that, we can actually use the src in here just as a fallback for browsers that doesn't actually support those two, new properties. So if it doesn't, just gonna fall back to the old safe src in here. But if it does, just gonna use those new ones. So the srcSet in here, from its name, that's actually a set of different image srcs. A set in here is basically just an array. So we have actually a string, or basically more of like a string delimited with like a comma. So here, the first thing you actually define is, or you basically put, is the image path. So for example, in here, I'm going to go to side of assets, responsive, and I want to use this image, which has like a 330 width, which is a WebP image. And here, the second parameter you want to actually define is actually the width size or the width resolution of that particular image. And of course, I'm making this a little bit more easier because here I'm actually appending basically the width resolution to the actual image file name in here just to make it easier for you guys. And I think that's a really, really good practice for you, just to have it on your applications, always to append the width size in here to the actual image file name so you can easily find it when you're debugging or working with it. So here we just like, the same width in here should be just basically the, the width or the resolution width of that particular image, and so on and so forth. So you want to define all of them here. So you want to define the second one in here, like the WebP, for example, for 768 resolution or pixels in here. So instead of using pixels, you basically just use the W in here to identify or tell the browser this is actually the, the width resolution. But basically this number here is in pixels. And of course, you define the same thing in here. So you just give it the resolution in here, and you give it the other path in here. So let's say for us in here, we want to use the three different resolutions, 330, we want to use 768, and we're going to use 1024. And here you basically give it the different paths and resolutions in here for the images. All right, cool. So now we defined our images and paths and different resolutions. The second most important thing is actually the sizes. So the sizes in here is basically like a media query, like a CSS media query inside of HTML, or basically inside of your React application in here. So how it works, it's basically a string. You give it first the media query, for example, maximum width, or you can give it minimum width in here. For example, I'm saying, maximum width 769 pixels. If it is actually, whether it's 769 or less, I want to display a 10 view width. So what do I mean by 10 view width in that particular? Well, for this one, it's not only width, but we're actually appending a V in here. That means virtual width. So that actually will like instruct the browser to go ahead and do its magic, do some kind of like calculations behind the scenes to figure out from the set of images that we have already defined in here, like which image fits this particular virtual width particularly. And of course, this virtual width is going to be like, 10% of the original width of the image. So imagine the origin width of the image in here we have is like Rollins.jpg in here is like 1024. So 10% of that is going to be, 1024 divided by 10. and it's going to do the magic in here to find, the one that is actually, equals to or greater than. In this case in here, there's going to be the 330 for our 30 view width in here is going to be basically, the 768, and as well as like the 100 view width in here is going to be, the 1024. And of course, for the one in here, we're not saying any maximum width for, that's actually going to be applied by default. So if it's like, if it's greater than 1024 pixels, if the screen size is greater than that one, it's just going to fall back to 100 view width. And you always, most of the times you want to display that way because, on bigger size screens in here, you want to display the full large, size kind of image, which is like going to be displaying the 1024 in here with high resolution and everything. But on mobile devices, small screens like tablets and mobile devices, you want to display like a smaller screen, so you can do it this way. And of course, you can manipulate this however you want. You can even like do, 3 in here, maybe something like that. And that just, gonna make you or ensure that you get the smallest image from the srcSet in here as much as you could, basically get. And yes, the same thing in here goes with a different image. And of course, you can define every single image or every other image in here the same way with srcSet. And that's basically going to give us this result where, on desktop, you're going to get the 1024. And if you ever resize, or for example, if the user is using a mobile device, well, if you just resize that one, he's going to get like the 330 in here, and the images are going to be swapped very easily. And if, for example, if we try to do, I want to click on this particular image in here and try to open it on a new tab and see what is the image, it's loading the Rollins 330 width.whip, and that's making us using responsive images. Now, everything is good and shiny about responsive images, but there's actually one teeny tiny small downside of using responsive images, or more of like an overhead when trying to use responsive images, which is like when you do want to responsive images, as probably you've already noticed, is like you here, for example, for images, you have to generate different resolutions. That means you have to generate different images each time for, for particularly every single image. So let's say in here for Rollins image, you want to go ahead and generate like a 330 width, and we also want to generate like 768 and a 1024 image. So we're technically generating 3 images. So you want to do that for every single image. So that's kind of a little bit tiring and a little bit of a downside. So as I already did in here, as clearly I'm generating from all of my images in here different sizes on like 330, 768, and 1024. Well, luckily for us, there's actually a couple of solutions for us to basically deal with that, or more of like automate the process or the generation of different image resolutions process. The first one is using Gulp. So if you're not familiar with Gulp, it's basically a library that allows you to automate processes, which is like, allows you to do different stuff like generating images and stuff like that inside of Node.js. So we're using Gulp in here. There is actually a plugin for this called Gulp Sharp Responsive. Now, Sharp is like a library that allows you to manipulate images and save them and resize them and many things. So this plugin here allows you to use it inside of Gulp. So what we're doing in here, we're creating like a Gulp script. There's more of a Gulp script in here that allows you to use Gulp, read from a file. So basically we're reading all the assets, like public assets. So if I go inside of my assets in here, so it's using here all of my images in here, like public assets like Rollins, Red, Fabio in here, so much more. So I'm reading all of those JPEG images, I'm piping them through to my Sharp plugin in here, and I'm just giving it formats. So this technically would just go ahead and read all the images inside of this directory. We'll use them through Sharp. We'll actually output this format on these different sizes. So going from width 330, 768, and 1024, as using him renaming those to include a suffix of like 1024 or 768 or 330. And last but not least, I'm just, putting this inside of destination, inside of like assets /responsive. So if you can go inside of that, screws in here, it's just generating this for me with a single script. So technically, all you gotta do in here is actually going to run yarn Gulp generate images once, whenever you add a new image to your to your directory in here, and that's gonna do the magic for you. It's gonna go ahead and generate that for you. And of course, you wanna add this script in here inside of the packet.json. So if you ever wanna use this solution, it's ready there. You can go ahead and see it in my, repository. I'm gonna give you the link down below in the description, so you can easily check out the repository and actually see how I'm implementing that one. Now, the second solution you can use is by using Next.js. So Next.js has actually a really awesome feature for you that just saves you a lot of time, and it does all the heavy lifting for you behind the scenes using like, server-side stuff and everything. So all you gotta do, literally all you gotta do, just like define the sizes inside of your image component, inside of like, the custom Next.js image components, and Next.js is gonna do everything behind the scenes. So for example, here we have like a Next.js application, which is like, my next portfolio, by the way. I'm working on it. It's almost out in there, like portfolio /blog / like a newsletter. So many things are actually coming in here. So here, looking into my portfolio, there's actually a small teeny tiny thing. So we're using Next.js, and this is actually, a style image that uses the image component of Next.js. So all you gotta do, just provide the src, and you can provide alt, of course, in here, whatever. Or here, you just provide the sizes. You don't need to provide the srcSet. Matter of fact, Next.js doesn't allow you to put the srcSet in here. So all you have to do, just put the sizes in here, and Next.js behind the scenes is gonna take those, it's gonna take the sizes from here, and it's gonna generate the srcSet for you, and it's gonna generate the images for you. So like, it's gonna take the image in here and just like split it into different resolutions of images, going from like 64 to 3000 pixels something. So it's gonna do everything that's behind the scenes for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So all you gotta do, just use the image, put the src, and you're good to go. And to see that in action, screws in here, I'm in my Next.js portfolio in here, and matter of fact, like just by loading that in desktop, it loads this image in here, which is like 384, and it has like 56 kilobyte. But if I just toggle the, the view, the mobile view in here, as you can see, I have 2 more images that were loaded, like 640 and have like 750 in here. And if you're wondering, oh, why we're going up, because we should go down, right? No, because like the sizes property I have in this one particularly is different, because what happens when I just like go all the way down and have it like, becomes one-way column where I just display the image in here. So the image has to be high resolution on mobile versus high resolution on desktop, because the desktop is going to have like, a wider view. So you can customize all of those using the sizes property, but this actually works smoothly using Next.js. And matter of fact, if you try to go ahead and open this, like, do open image in a new tab, as in here, all of that was generated by Next.js on its own directory in here, static, and in here, it puts like, oh, this is a JPEG with a width of 750 and the quality of 75. And that kind of like makes it good and bad, because for React, for us, like, we only want to use React in the client. We don't want to use the Next.js framework. How we can have the same feature in React? I mean, I've been searching literally everywhere. I went through Google, I went to like GitHub for plugins, but I haven't much found there. And there wasn't something like sophisticated as the Next.js one that allows you to generate stuff for you on the fly. So what I decided is actually to build my own plugin that allows you to do exactly that, the same thing that Next.js does it on React itself. So I went straight through in here and tried to look into how I can, put that inside of Vite, because Vite has a really nice, simple plugin system that allows you to do a lot of stuff. So I used Vite in here. I created a custom plugin called the React Transform plugin in here, which is still only in my repository in here, but I'm gonna just put it later on a GitHub repo where you can just do npm install. But for now, if you want to try this after this video tutorial, you're gonna find it on the repository in here. You can just copy paste this, use it inside of Vite, and you're good to go. Now the way to use it inside of Vite is pretty simple. It's just like any other plugin. All you have to do is like import this from like plugin React Transform plugin in here, which is the React Transform, and you put the plugin in here. So you just comment this one, because usually we do plugins React, but this plugin in here has to run before the React plugin. So you just do React Transform plugin enforce. And of course, all this kind of like, all this kind of syntax that you see in here is still like, because it's in development, I literally just finished it like, 15 minutes ago. So when I deploy this, when I put it on, package it on NPM, I'm going to, have a more sophisticated API, a lot easier, a lot simpler to use. All right, so once you put that, actually Control S. Now, because the plugin in here just, allows you to generate the srcSet automatically for you and automagically, so you no longer need the srcSet in here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and comment the srcSet in here. I'm just gonna go ahead and save and make sure to activate the plugin. So if you look into it again, as you can see, it starts generating different images, like those assets generated. It generates from like 32 width to 3840 or something, and it goes, a lot more into all the images that we have, and it starts generating. As you can see, it takes a little bit of time, and I'm working on just fixing that. But if you look at the end result and you actually go to the browser and you go to the elements, you access the image in here. As you can see here, I don't know if you can basically see it. I can just go ahead and zoom in a little bit, but the srcSet is crazy. So I have in here srcSet has different stuff from 32 width, 48 to 750 to, you know, basically 3,840 width. All of those were automatically generated for you on the fly using the Vite plugin. And that was like heavily inspired using the Next.js plugin or the Next.js image generation. So I went through the source code of Next.js and tried to implement it the same way because that was very nice and very optimized. Of course, I haven't got it that way optimized, but I'm going to optimize it a little bit later on when I finish the video. But this actually works so perfectly right now. So for example, just to see that in action, as you can see here, when we are just, you know, very small screen, like 200 pixels, as you can see, it's almost visible because we're loading the 32 width, which is super pixelated. But if we try to go up in here, as you can see, it starts loading other resolutions as we go up regarding the, you know, the srcSet we're generating using the plugin. So like 48, 128, you know, 260 or 256, sorry, and 2048 in here for a very, very high resolution. And of course, everything in here is happening using the srcSet, and behind the scenes, the Vite plugin that we just created actually does all the heavy lifting. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you really like the plugin here, and of course, I'm going to just keep trying to, you know, push that one into a package and polish it. But if you really want to just have any, but no promises because I don't have a lot of time in here. But if you offer or you want to offer any help, or if you see a good way to implement or improve the code, because I'm going to put this inside of the GitHub repository so you can just improve it and do whatever you want with it. But anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching and hope you guys enjoyed. And, you know, of course, I'm going to catch you again in the next video.